the president did mention that Israel ought to abide by international law. Does that, in your view, mean that Israel must end its cutoff of water, electricity, food, and medicine to the people in Gaza?
I will say that, as the president made clear, Israel has suffered from a brutal terrorist attack. Israel has the right to defend itself. It has the right to take action against the terrorists who launched this brutal attack and killed Israeli civilians. It killed American civilians, killed mothers and children and babies and kidnapped children, and so they are going to take action to respond to this terrorist attack and take action to secure their country, and we support them. As the president made clear, we always encourage all of our allies and partners to act in strict accordance with international law. That is what democracies do, and I would just point out that, of course, is not what Hamas did. Saeed, let me just finish. That is not, Saeed, that is not what Hamas did in coming into Israel and kidnapping and murdering innocent civilians.
Okay, I understand. I mean, Hamas, you have Hamas listed as a terrorist organization. They don't get $4 billion a year from you. They don't have military aid and support and so on. So that is established. You're saying that Israel is a democracy. It's a country that abides by international law. I'm asking you, the cutoff of water, electricity, food, and medicine is considered a war crime. Do you call on Israel to cease its effort now in cutting off medicine,
Let
water,
me start by saying that we are
aid?
in the early days of Israel's response. Israel has a right to conduct an aggressive response, to respond to the terrorism that's been committed against its citizens. We expect them to follow international law. We believe that they will, and we will remain in close contact with them about it.
You believe they should not intentionally target civilians? That's one. Second, do you have any idea on the number of Palestinians killed by Israel in the last 4 days?
I have seen public reports.
What are these?
I am not going to speak to the.
Matt, I mean, the president said that Hamas is motivated, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, motivated solely by the quest to kill Jews. Do you believe that is to be the case? Is it the assessment of this government that Hamas' sole motivation is to go out and kill Jews? There's no context. There's no siege that has gone on for 16 years. There's no raid after raid by the Israelis.
Saeed, I am just going to say that is a bit of a surprising question after what we saw Hamas carry out this weekend. When we saw Hamas go in and deliberately target Israeli citizens and not just soldiers in the IDF, but women, children, kidnap them. We all saw the images that cross our television screens of Hamas behaving in the most inhumane way possible. So I won't speak to their motivations, but I think they're pretty clear. Let me move on. Go ahead. Let me go ahead.
Is there another context?
Thank you very much, Matt.
Yeah, in March, you condemned Israel's finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, for calling for wiping the Palestinian village of Huwara off the map. This week, we've heard the defense minister of Israel, Yoav Gallant, declare that he's fighting human animals in Gaza as Israel cuts off the gas, the water, and the electricity. We've heard Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, declare that all hiding places will be turned to rubble in a besieged coastal enclave where there are 1 million children. We've heard Ariel Kalner, who is a member of Knesset from the ruling Likud party, call for a Nakba 2.0, which is essentially a call for genocide and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians as 850 are dead in Gaza. So what do you think of that rhetoric in light of your previous condemnation?
Let me say a few things about that. Number one, we expect, as we said, that Israel will conduct its operations in accordance with international law. Number two, there are going to be a number of statements made over the course of this conflict, and when we have disagreements with them, we will make those known privately. Number three, though, let me just speak to this. Number three, some of the questions I'm getting today do seem to ignore the fact that Israel just had hundreds of its citizens killed, people who were taken hostage, and pretend that Israel shouldn't be able to conduct any kind of. Let me just say,
Palestinian children have been killed? Do you acknowledge that? Will you even acknowledge that?
Let me finish.
80 Palestinian children killed
you know
this
what?
week?
Again,
babies. Do you acknowledge that?
You asked a question. I will answer the question.
Okay, that's my question.
So I'm going to start by answering the previous question that was interrupted. I will say some of the questions seem to pretend that Israel should not be able to conduct operations to defend itself and hold accountable the terrorists who killed civilians. That is not Israel's policy. That is not our policy. It is something that we vehemently disagree with. Israel has the right to secure its country the way any country does. It has the right to defend itself against terrorism. It has the right to hold terrorists accountable. And I will say, ultimately, the Hamas terrorists who launched these operations, there is no one who has more disregard for Palestinian civilian life than those terrorists. Because those terrorists, let me finish. Those terrorists launched this activity. Those terrorists, again, we seem to have a lot of new people. Those terrorists launched this activity knowing that there would be retaliation, knowing that Israel would have to defend itself as any country did, knowing that it would lead to the unfortunate loss of civilian lives by Palestinians, and they did anyway. Let me go ahead.
Yes,
That's amazing.
So baby killing is okay here.
Why can't you acknowledge
Baby killing is okay here.
You can't even acknowledge
We always mourn the loss of civilian life. It is an unfortunate circumstance every time it happens. And as I just said, the Hamas terrorists who launched this terrorist attack, knowing that it would produce the loss of not just direct Israeli lives, who they took in their incursions across the border, but also the loss of Palestinian civilian life, they ultimately bear the responsibility for those acts. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go. I'm gonna ask. I just did do that. I would ask you not to talk over your colleague. Go ahead.
Matt, thank you. Is there a latest U.S. assessment
I just did,
on Saudi's
and I'm gonna-
position
go ahead.
regarding the potential normalization deal with Israel? And
Go ahead. Let me. Terrorist attacks.
Does Israel have a right
Go-
to kill
go
civilians? Does Israel have a right to kill? They're being bombed and you're totally silent and you're giving Israel a green light. This is absurd, Matt. Matt, this is completely absurd.
Excuse me. And with
Will
that,
you
we'll
urge
wrap.
Israel
And with that,
to not starve
and with that, we'll wrap
and
for the day.
slaughter people?
Thanks, everyone.
Will you urge Israel to not starve and slaughter people, please?